Hello and welcome to El Partido, yet another Spanish football podcast, but this time, as always, with a little nostalgic twist, a little dash of memory, and just great vibes of when football was absolutely brilliant, especially in Spain. I'm delighted to say welcome back, or should I say Guten Tag, to Paul, who is on his return from his weekend away in Germany. How were things over in, I don't know what they call it. Is it the mother country or something like that?
I'd be wary of saying it. I think it was once upon a time known as the fatherland, but they were all very good. All very good. Oh dear. Yeah. All great.
Expectations on that one there.
Yeah. Let's smooth things out. Yeah, it was a good weekend. Got to take in some football at the Betzer, which is the home of Kaiserslautern, and for a second tier game of football, crowd of 50,000, and one of the best choreo displays and best atmospheres I've ever been to. Absolutely fantastic. Great time with some friends and affordable drinks as well. Lovely time. How are yourself? You had a good weekend, or a good week, really? It's been a while since we've spoken in person, isn't it?
It is, yeah. No, the weekend wasn't too bad, but obviously it all comes crashing down with a massive explosion when you get into work on Monday morning. But the things that get me through the week are talking Spanish football with the likes of yourself as well, Paul. So we're living and we're transvesting through that part of it, if that sounds good. But yeah, and I'm excited for this week because we've not done an episode like this before. We are both admittedly quite avid kit collectors. If you are tuning in on YouTube, you may notice there are some shirts knocking around our usual backgrounds, and it's a good one because we're going to be talking about a unique kit maker this week, and a person who makes pretty fantastic shirts and has got a pedigree which maybe isn't thought of so highly nowadays, but at one point was the height of fashion back in Spain. But I suppose maybe to endear ourselves to other kit collectors, Paul, maybe let's talk about some of our own shirts that we have in our collection. Do you have any favourites that you have at the minute?
Well, I'm fortunate. I've got a collection that my wife thinks is too large for one person to own. But yeah, I've got 50 Spanish football shirts and nearly 60 Manchester City shirts and a handful of ones from all over the world to go with it. But I'm a bit of a sucker for the ones that, that like a modern take on a retro design. So there's quite a few of them I've dotted about. In fact, there's some of my favourite kits are ones that are on my list here, so I don't want to give anything away really. But yeah, I do like. There was a phase as well, and he said we need to mention other kit providers. So there was a period of time during the late 2000s, early 2010s, where Umbro were doing kits that were made out of a particular material that felt like cotton to touch, but had the breathability of traditional kits. And being from Manchester and working in an office that's right around the corner from where that design studio was, the Umbro kits from that time do have a bit of a special place in my collection.
Yeah, and again, speaking of kit manufacturers that are seemingly coming back around again into not just a psyche, but into popularity as well, like Umbro in the last couple of seasons been absolutely smashing it, really. Some of the best kits out there, and the one that's really jumping out to my mind, sad that Carlisle United were relegated this weekend, but they did it dressed in a beautiful kit. So
if you're gonna go down or you're gonna win something, you might as well be wearing a smart kit to go with it. I used to have this bit of a strange expectation ever since Manchester City got quite good. The years where I thought, oh, that's a nice kit, turned out to be the years where we won something. So like recently winning the treble, I think that's probably the best City kit of all time with the badges in the centre. Whereas other years, where the kit hasn't been so good. It turned out to be the years where we've not won stuff, but likewise, we had some really crap kits in the 90s and ended up going down, but they're now popular again. And now that I'm seeing them in a different light, a couple of them are a lot nicer than how they were or how I remembered them at the time.
Yeah, I look back on some of the Blackpool kits, for example, and again, like you, Paul, I've got an extensive collection that my wife thinks is too big. It was recently thinned as well before Christmas, but it's still too big, apparently. But yeah, like the one that always jumps out to me is the season when Blackpool got promoted to the Premier League, and they had a shirt made by Cabrini, yet also sponsored by Cabrini. So it was like Cabrini, which isn't the greatest kit manufacturer in the world anyway, but the fact that it was on there twice was a bit weird. Or obviously when we're in the Prem and we had that giant Wonga logo, which was a bit distasteful looking back now. But then there's ones that I used to look at and go, oh, Gola kit? No, don't like a Gola kit. Now they're available for the best part of like £180, very, very rare. And I'm like, I must have the Gola kit from 1993 or something like that. So it's I'm probably not too dissimilar to you. Mine's more shirts that probably relate more to me. So I've got my pride and joys being my extensive Malaga shirt collection. As you can probably see, I've got them dotted around me right now. 45 Malaga shirts spanning from around 1996 to present day. But the one kit manufacturer that I think is absolutely smashing it at the moment is Macron. I don't know about you, but Macron kits for me are just incredible. And if I was to buy one today, and I know I've said this to Liam a lot on El Pozo, but they did a Ceuta Pompey collaboration. And it's just this really, really fantastic sort of like checkerboard black and white kit with Ceuta in gold written across the chest. And I really want it, but it's £96. I'm like, I just don't know if I can get away with it.
Well, funnily enough, as I was in Germany this weekend, it's coming up. This coming weekend is going to be the 125th anniversary of FC Nuremberg, and they've released a special edition Adidas kit in this nice, I'd say it's maroon and an off-white with gold accents on. Looks absolutely stunning. So my mate who lives in Nuremberg, I've asked him to price it up for me, but I think it's going to be an eye-watering amount. Am I right? Just to go back a bit, Blackpool, didn't they have a phase where they had a bunch of kits made by Fila as well?
They did, yeah. It was just as they came out of the Premier League, and they've just been relegated to the Championship, and the kit the season after was a Fila kit. So again, talking about things swinging back around again, back then it was kind of like, again, you were being frowned upon. Oh, you've got a Fila kit. No one else has got a Fila kit. I think only Luton were the other team that had the Fila kit. But now, if you was to say to the youth of today, would you wear a Fila football kit? They'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I'd pay hundreds of pounds for a Fila shirt. No problem at all. Those were the beginnings. I suppose the end of the good times for a little while. But it was a good kit, to be fair. I'll have to admit, it was nice with a collar as well, which was smart. And we had like an 125th anniversary shirt, which was really nice royal blue with tangerine accents, which was really cool. But the best part about the kits, I'm going off a massive tangent here, is that they had an offer on lettering when Blackpool got promoted to the Premier League. So for years, I'd been getting Bell number on the back, and it was always £10 the number, £2 the letter, whatever it was. So it always used to cost you like the best part of £15 just to put your own name on the back. So when they did this £10 all-in deal, I thought, bugger this. I've had years of just putting my really short name on the back of shirts with one letter and one number, sorry. I'm going mental. So then I just started going a bit rogue, and I have to put a picture of this on social media. But the first one I got was Van der Bell on the back, number 17, which is my lucky number. I then had Bel Piero, which was a fun one. Bellatelli with number 45 on the back, which I thought was quite cool as well. Pavlibel, which was a bit of a hard one, but I was a bit of a fan of Roman Pavlyuchenko at the time, so I was like,
Right.
that sounds cool. And a few other ones until I think they cottoned on and went, right, we're not going to do this offer anymore because we're clearly losing money with this one guy taking the absolute piss out of us by getting not his real name on the back of shirts. But I might start doing that again, actually. I think a 35-year-old man could get away with that, couldn't he?
Yeah. Some very creative names that you went for there as well. I like Bellatelli. I think that's class.
It is. Bellatelli was a good one. I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to dig out the pictures. But yeah, obviously that is about our own shirt collections, our own fascinations, and our own wives' hatred of them. I suppose, like I say, we're here to talk about that kit manufacturer that you may have clocked onto if you watch online that we're surrounded by at the moment, and that is Kelme. So the title of this episode is Hecho en España, which I'm guessing it means made in Spain. And this is the story about, a Spanish kit manufacturer who basically at one point during the late 90s, early noughties, were the predominant kit supplier in Spanish football and made some absolute beauties of kits. So just a bit on them, Paul, compared to other manufacturers like your Adidas, your Nike, your Pumas, Kelme's never really been a fashionable brand, so to speak, have they? They've been, sport related, but they've never been something you'd see people wearing out and about, would they?
Yeah, I mean, apart from football shirts, I can't think of another sort of piece of attire that's Kelme that I'd ever seen anyone wear out and about in the streets. It's always been that, but they've been around, obviously, in Spain for a long time, and when you go back, I think probably maybe last 25 years, there's at least one team in the top tier that's had a Kelme shirt, as far as I can think. I can't think of a season where we didn't have one team wearing a Kelme top. I think Rayo Vallecano went through a stage of having Kelme for quite a bit. I think, when they were going through they'd have a different coloured sash for different things.
Yeah.
So the rainbow one was for a cause. They had a pink one for breast cancer as well, and various other things. Like, that was all part of the Kelme range. And obviously, all of the shirts that we'll be discussing today are all Kelme ones, and we've picked our favourites, haven't we? I should say though, people who are watching, they'll see that I've got two Kelme shirts. How can I get my things right? So this one is an Español shirt from a couple of years ago, and then I've got a Deportivo Alaves shirt from the last season before they changed their crest. Actually, neither of those shirts are actually some of my favourites, but I couldn't find within easy reach any of the other Kelme shirts in my collection for which to get out for today's show. But no, whilst they may be nice in their own way, neither of them have made the final cut for what we're getting into.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by mainly Malaga ones. Obviously, like you say, with the collection that I've got. I also did show Paul my lovely Kelme match jacket, which was an extra large, and I thought, I'm a bit of a big lad, but Christ, size in the 90s was flattering. Let's put it that way, because it's a tent on me, which is quite. Feels quite nice, actually.
But you're right though. Like, I've got a bunch of shirts from the 90s that say that they're a large or an extra large or a medium, and they are much bigger in every size than today's medium, large, and XL. I think, to be fair, if we went back to 90s sizing, a lot of us would feel better about our physiques.
Yes.
Back 90s sizing.
I agree with that. It starts tonight, Paul. Go back to 90s football shirt sizing. I don't want muscle fit. I want you can wear walking around Spain in comfort. That's what I really, really want.
Yeah.
But
just think though, if we ever do a Kappa episode and they're going on about what's theirs is the Combat Gara range, where theirs is basically skin fit,
See, I've always loved Kappa kits, like, again, tangent, a lot of those, Italian 90 sides, those Roma kits, Napoli kits, etc.
Yeah.
And then it just comes to the fit, and you're just like, I could never justify buying one because I just know it would look like it had been painted on.
Yeah, I got a Napoli shirt from, I think it's probably about 2018. It's got this. It's one of the ones that they did for the Champions League. It's in the lovely Napoli blue. and the Kappa accent is like a luminous sort of yellowy green color, goes up the side on the paneling, and it came in a little pizza box style thing. Really great, really great. Very expensive, but you buy it in what you think is your size, but then you realize that you are essentially wearing it as if it's a leggings, but fit in your torso. So I could never actually wear it, but it's very nice to look at, I guess.
It's great to look at. Yeah, no, I think that's it. That's my danger with Kappa. It'd be a risk of asphyxiation. I think would be my that going. Oh, you look good, Nick, but you're turning blue.
Yeah.
No. But but Kelme themselves, like you say, they first came to sort of like into the consciousness, like you said, Paul, in the late 70s. They were the official sponsors of the Spanish Olympic team, which sort of brought them into the mainstream. They had a world-renowned cycling team at one point. So again, we're thinking, where's the connection here? They even have their own football club, which I found quite interesting. There is a Kelme club football. I'll give you a couple of guesses here, Paul. Would you be able to see any former players from Kelme Club de Football that I would say have definitely reached the pinnacle of Spanish football while starting at Kelme?
I'm going to be honest with you. Were it not for the fact that I've had a peek at the show notes, I wouldn't have been able to name any. But as it happens, I can name at least two that have stuck in my mind. But I will let you tell the listeners who those players are, because like I say, I feel like I've cheated a little bit, and I've got to be honest, I genuinely did not know until I saw the notes.
It was a fascinating find, because one thing I will say about Kelme Club de Football is they are a youth team, a juvenile team. So they had amongst their ranks at one point former Leti right back Juan Fran. He played for them as a kid. Thiago of Barca, Bayern, and Liverpool fame. He started out there, and current Real Betis winger Abdi Azazuli, I think his name is. I can never quite say any names really, but yeah, he started out at Kelme Club de Football as well. So they've not just got great football shirt pedigree; they've clearly got good football pedigree as well. So I thought that was quite a nice point to make, but. Not to delay any further, I think we need to probably get into talking about these shirts. So we're going to talk about our 4 favourites that we've got, and then we're kind of going to go away from this episode and pit them head to head, aren't we, Paul? Just to see which one gets voted as the ultimate Kelme shirt from an El Partido perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the shirts that we've picked, I think there's going to be some very tough choices for people when it comes to voting on this.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And they're all absolutely spectacular in their own each individual ways. And some of the stories around them are brilliant too. So I'll start with mine. And the one I'm going to start with is naturally going to be the one that I'm wearing. So this is the 1997-98 Malaga away shirt. And as you can see, it's a really beautiful, bright blue and yellow. Very much giving you Costa del Sol vibes at this point. Sort of like with the stripes, not just going vertically, but kind of like going vertically and then kind of like caressing your shoulders. I feel like I'm being hugged in this shirt. Really nice thick collars as well. And obviously this is a special shirt for me because it is one of the most sought after Malaga shirts you can get as a collector or even just as a fan. There's obviously a big horrendous movement at the minute where there's, fakes or dubs available from certain markets. And this is the one in Malaga that gets replicated the most, I would say.
That's the bit where you go, but that's the bit where you tell everyone the one you're wearing is genuine now, just to reassure them.
This is legit and genuine. And I had to prize it out of the hands of a collector called, I don't know if you know him actually, he's called Wise Owl Stores on Instagram. He does a pop-up shop in Albert Dock sometimes. Really great to go and check out his collection sometimes. He's got some mad stuff, but he wanted an Isle of Man shirt from me, and he had this Malaga shirt. And I said, well, I won't make you a trade because it's clearly not fair. So I said, well, You buy this one from me and I'll do it for you for a good price. And then you sell me that and just name your price and I'll buy it off you. And he named it and I just went, cool, that's fine. I'll take it. No problem. No negotiation at all. But as you can see, it's an absolutely beautiful kit. And, the story around this is it kind of represents Malaga's return to professional football, really. So this was the kit that they got promoted in back up to the second division. So they'd come out of the third tier, they'd clambered out of the well through the playoffs, got themselves back into professional football, and essentially arrived looking like this. And we're like, boys, we're ready now. We're there in our lovely Kelme kits. They've got some fantastic football players that represented this shirt as well. Pablo Guede was one of the top goal scorers in the league with this. He scored that hat trick against Teresa as well. Super Basti was again at Malaga when this shirt was being worn, along with Manolo as well. So, yeah, it was really, a really brilliant time. And I think this is what this shirt encapsulates. It's that memory of Malaga returning, Malaga coming back after they've been liquidated years before from being Club Deportivo Malaga. They were back as Malaga Club de Football, and this represented their return to professional, the second division, the levels which they aspire to be at always. And I've only been out of that league setup once since. So it's a fantastic shirt. This one, it is definitely one of my favourites.
It is a nice one. Yeah, it is very much a nice one. I seem to recall a very similar, or it's very probably the same design but different colours, Extremadura shirt in that style, green and red. And it strikes me because the green and red one reminds me of a GAA jersey from the Irish Games. Anyone, County Mayo. It reminds me of one of those style shirts, but it looks very flattering in the yellow and the blue there. What was the home shirt like that season?
Oh, well, funny you should ask if I can actually reach it or whether you can see it from behind the other Kelme one. So it's just there, but very, very much the same, sort of with the stripes going vertically then over your shoulder as well, but obviously in the traditional blue and white of Malaga. So again, I think that's quite cool.
You've got to like the fact that it's a Malaga shirt sponsored by Malaga as well. So
yes, and I never quite know the story behind this, because this isn't like... It isn't like other Malaga shirts where they've had, Visit Andalusia, for example, or Unicaja, which is more your prominent sponsored. This,
when there was a bunch of teams, was it? I think Atleti and Mallorca, I think as well, who had the Marbella sponsor as well for a long time.
Yeah. It might be something like that, maybe, or it might simply be that they've just put their name across the front of it. I'm not too sure, but I think it makes it look very striking as well, especially with how it stands out in the black and white too. But like you say on the other ones where you've got the more traditional, commercial sponsorships, this does feel slightly different as well, which is quite nice. So that's the first choice. That's Malaga 1997 to 1998, celebrating their return back to professional football. Do you want to go for one, or do you want me to carry on with this one?
No, we can go with one of mine if you'd like. Sure. So mine, it's not one that I can say I'm wearing. I'm not wearing a football shirt as it stands. And although I do still have this particular shirt, it doesn't fit me because it's 30 years old nearly. But it's and I'm not saying this because I think people know that I am a Mallorca fan when it comes to Spanish football. So it's not my Spanish team. This, but when I was a little boy, went on holiday to Spain many times, and quite often that would mean picking up a football shirt whilst I was there. And this one I've just loved since then. I love the colour of it. I love the design. And it is an away shirt from the 1995-1996 season. It is a Real Madrid shirt that was sported by the likes of Quique Sanchez Flores, Fernando Hierro, Redondo, Michel, Michael Laudrup, Luis Enrique, Luis Milla, Guti, Manolo Sanchez. So it's I should describe it. It's the deep purple, Real Madrid purple, with 4 sort of stripes in an alternate purple going diagonally across the chest with some white flashing on there. It's got the Tekka. If anyone can remember Tekka, I actually don't know what Tekka did. I don't know if they're like Beko and they made fridges or anything like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they were an appliance company, weren't they?
I think they look very similar to, in terms of the logo and that. So it was a Tekka shirt with the shoulders had a white stripe on either side with the Kelme paw print going up. Nice, strong, proper collar. When it was the 90s and football shirts used to come with a proper collar. So I don't know if I will put the picture up, but I do have a picture of me as a 5-year-old wearing this shirt when I'm on holiday. But I just thought it was really, really cool then. There's something about it that I've just really liked the design ever since. And it could be to do with the fact that this was a pretty star-laden team as well. The fact they had Michael Laudrup in it and Hierro and obviously Raul, I thought was quite special. So it's one that has stuck with me. And there's if I was picking, we're not trying to be contrary or anything like that with this podcast or anything like that. I probably wouldn't have expected to pick a Real Madrid shirt, but when I was looking through the ones that my favorite Kelme ones over the years, this one was right at the top for me.
Yeah, it's a stunning shirt, and like you say, it goes back to, I suppose, 2 points. One, when Real Madrid really did embrace their traditional colours of being not just the white of Real Madrid, but also this sort of like deep purple colour that they had as well for a very, very long time. Even the home shirts were accented with the purple as well, which is far gone from where they are now. But I think it speaks volumes in how big Kelme actually were, or how important it was that this will be controversial to say, but one of the biggest club, if not the biggest club in Spain, or in terms of being the representation of Spanish football on the international stage, being sponsored by Kelme. And not just for one season either, for a good, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons at the time.
It was definitely the season before and the season after this, because the season after this was another purple away shirt, but it wasn't as nice. It was nice, but it wasn't as nice as this one, if you know what I mean. And the home shirt the season before, I think, if I recall this correctly, was basically an invert of the white and the purple. It was the same design, but the other way around, the colours. But yeah, like you say, and it's important that we call out that was the standing that Kelme had at this point in time, that they were, providing kits for the biggest clubs as well. Whereas I think, certainly in the last decade, maybe that's a bit unfair. Let's say that the last 7 or 8 years at least, they've been providing kits for teams further down the league table, shall we say?
Yeah, lots of micronations and futsal as well, which I was surprised to see. So fair play to them, diversifying. But yeah, it did speak volumes of the time of where Kelme were perceived that they could even compete with the likes of Adidas and Nike and Puma and whoever else. For Diodora at the time was massive for the Real Madrid kit sponsorship contracts. And I'm trying to recall, actually, I do have a picture in my mind of Zidane wearing a Kelme shirt, but I don't think it was the season where he scored that absolute belter in Glasgow, where he absolutely ripped it. That might have been an Adidas shirt, to be fair. But again, you link them back to these players, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, they invoke memories, don't they? That's the thing. The same with when, I mentioned at the start, whenever clubs nowadays do like a retro shirt or something like that, it does trigger emotional. But it's designed to as well. That it's designed to hit that nostalgia nerve that we're both very fond of on this podcast, anyway, aren't we? It's and it does. It invokes memories of I think moments of wonder on a football pitch, or exciting moments of flair and skill. You tend to remember them more so than 0-0 draws or anything like that. But it's the image you have of a particular moment and what the player is wearing, which is why I think it's kind of sad now. I think like it was a lot of teams where we're in 2025 and you've got clubs that are basically wearing template kits that are, it's all these identity kit pattern stuff or bizarre third kit designs and everything like that. Whereas I think Kelme over the years, the design was done with, with there was genuine thought that went into it. Like, speaking about the Madrid one here, they thought about the shading of the purple, making sure it's the one that is associated closely to the club as traditional colours. And yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think and that's what I think makes them, I think at the time, so unique as well, because it's not as if like, patterns and being out there was, completely new to the thing. We just come out of the 80s, for example. That's when all kits were a bit like out there and loud and things like that. But they really did it with this that flair. And you, I don't know about you, but when I look at a Kelme kit, I can instantly tell that it feels Spanish as well. The same way you probably do the same with Nike and it feeling American, or Adidas feeling German, for example. But I do identify Kelme with being Spanish. And this time with the Real Madrid shirt, that was one of the first Kelme shirts I would ever have seen, because that's the market that you were looking at, and it was always Real Madrid which were coming out there and showing it to you. So that's an absolute belter, to be fair, that away kit. And I feel like we've picked a lot of away kits actually for this list, which I think is quite interesting. But I'm going to go for a home kit for my next one, Paul. And similar to the Malaga story, really, this is a kit which I think lives in the memory of a lot of fans for this particular club, because it represented a return to the top table for them. So again, we know the story of Villarreal, small town in the Valencian community. I think every time they play European football, it's repeated about 4 times that, only 50,000 people live there. You're like, yeah, okay, we get it. But they are a club which always seemingly, punch above their weight and always have done really, really well, recruited perfectly. And I think this shirt for me is one of the best Kelme shirts ever. Not just because it's in those striking colours of Villarreal, that, amarillo, that, really, really kind of like, crimson blue would be the way I would describe it. But the fact for me on this one is how it's accented. And accent is always important for me. This thick blue collar on this shirt is absolutely stunning. And the way it arches and sort of like, kind of like frames the player with the blue going from the nape of the neck down to the sides. Again, this was a new direction for Kelme. They'd rebranded the logo. They decided to come away from some of the bold stripage that they'd had on some other kits, and they were going with this new design and this new technology as well. So, like I say, this is where they start to incorporate things like mesh to help with breathability, to help with aid football players, movements on the pitch and things like that. So, for Kelme to do that when they were obviously doing so well already was quite interesting. But to do it with Villarreal, who were back in La Liga after a 12-year absence, they didn't have the most incredible season this time round. It was their first year back in the league forever, but I think it just lives with them so much because it was this striking kit. They did have, some pretty decent results inside there as well. Like a massive 4-4 draw with Barcelona at El Madrigal, and these are the players that you see in the shirt. This is the Villarreal shirt I see alongside the Champions League one as well, which I think was the Puma kit that they had. And it's just stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's 2 really nice colours that actually remind me about 10 years ago when I was playing. I was still fit enough to play Sunday League. The team that I played for was basically wearing the same sort of shady yellow, same. I don't know if it's a royal blue actually, or certainly, Curzon, I'd guess is a fair one. We'd wear that shade of yellow for the shirt with a bit of the blue piping, but the shorts were the same blue as that, and so it reminds me of that. It's got another meaning for me, but I also because it reminds me of happy times playing football. But it's a cool shirt. It's you're right in saying as well, it's got there's a shape to this design that is kind of in between eras, really, because it's got the big collar that we associate with 90s to early 2000s, but it's got the mesh and some of the piping as well, which was really popular in the early to mid 2000s. So what was this, 2000 to 2001? So yeah, a couple of years ahead of the fashion there, actually.
Yeah, well, when you think of some of the other ones, like the Man United kit that had the collar, for example, or even some of the Nike kits, where before we got that Total 90 era, where they first started to introduce the mesh along the back of the neck and down the sides, and that this is light years ahead for Kelme as well. And I think what I really like about this kit that you touched on there as well is the fact that it was before Villarreal moved away to having like a fully yellow kit as well. So if you watch Villarreal nowadays, they are mainly predominantly, yellow shirt, yellow shorts, yellow socks. Whereas at this point, they were the yellow shirt with the blue accents, but they had the blue socks, blue shirt, blue shorts. I'll get there eventually. And then with the interchangeable socks as well. So it was a bit different for Villarreal too, because this was a team that you probably start to see again for the first time in a while. But they weren't the Villarreal that we would recognise today. So say were famed for playing in this all yellow kit. It was probably more akin to like Las Palmas kit, for example. But it's a really, really beautiful one. And obviously, as far as Villarreal concerned, they see this as a return to the top table. And then since that point, they've never really faltered apart from one relegation back down to Segunda. But if you would have told a Villarreal fan back in 2000, 2001 that they would go into the Champions League, reach the semi-finals where they got beat by Arsenal, win the Europa League as well with Unai Emery in the last few years as well, they wouldn't believe you, would they?
No, not at all. And this, we mentioned it just earlier, this is what kits do. When you look at old kits, it does invoke memories. And I'm certainly thinking about where Villarreal were, and they've not really looked back since then, have they? No. Obviously, the club's changed quite a bit, and even just down to the traditional colours now. But no, it's a good pick there that you've gone with.
Oh, thank you very much. So what's your next pick? What's the kit that we're going to be pitching this beautiful Villarreal shirt up against?
So I have gone with another home shirt to match your home shirt. So this is the 1997-1998 Real Mallorca shirt. And there were quite a few Real Mallorca shirts that I rather biasedly browsed through. But this one, I think, stood out for me in a few ways. So to paint the picture for those who are listening, I would say we need to think of this as for what it was at the time. So it's got the big square shape to it, the 90s cut. We talked earlier about the 90s sizing, didn't we? So It's got the sleeves that are quite baggy, even though the short sleeves, it's quite square. Like the shirt you're wearing. So it's in the red, obviously. It's got a nice collar on it. It's red that fades to sort of not quite black, but fades to a very dark shade as it turns over. Kelme, obviously, on one side, a very large, unusually large Mallorca crest for the shirt, and then the huge Spanair logo across the middle. A bit of a white piping on the sides, and the sleeves are in a mix of shades between red and black with not quite a pinstripe, but a white cross section on it, and obviously the running up the shoulders of the Kelme paw prints. And I just thought this is a really cool kit. It's definitely one that's quite dated now, and I suppose when I look at it and I think about it, it doesn't look too dissimilar to some of the Nottingham Forest shirts that were made by Umbro. The Lamberts one from the mid-90s that were, or one or two early Manchester United shirts, actually. So really, I'm talking myself out of liking this one. But it was, to give you an idea of some of the players that wore it, it was Fernando Nino, so Fer Nino's dad, Juan Carlos Valeron and Paco Soler. It was the shirt that Hector Cooper was the manager, and Real Mallorca finished 5th in La Liga, just 3 points behind Real Madrid, and were also runners-up in the Copa del Rey. So 5-6 years later, obviously that's a competition that Mallorca would go on to win. But this was a time that was... So I actually I was on holiday in Mallorca in I can't remember if it is actually 97 when the season started or 98 as the season was ended, but it's whilst this shirt was still being adorned by the team. And I can also, and it sounds silly this to associate this with the football shirt, but I can still remember the Spanair planes that used to be everywhere. And it's been like, now you go and it's like Iberia, isn't it? But Spanair used to be everywhere until they went bankrupt, actually. But so this one just reminds me of being a child, and I think it's a cool design, even though it is quite a dated. And I suppose if you compared it to some of the others that are up for debate here, it's probably one of the more ugly ones aesthetically. But for me, I really like this shirt for what it is. But I'm biased, so.
Well, it's what it represents as well, and again, we've spoken about Malaga's return to sort of like the forefront. We've spoke about Villarreal's as well. For Mallorca, I suppose they weren't in the woods at this point. They weren't out of the psyche. They were a La Liga side, but am I right in saying they were never like a massively competitive side until this point where Hector Cooper comes in, who's a manager we spoke about.
We're entering a period, where an important period and one of the more successful periods. But this is still early. I mean, I can't. If you said to me, would I take Mallorca finishing 3 points behind Real Madrid in any season anytime soon, I'd bite your hand off for it. I don't think. I mean, Mallorca are on a very good run at the moment, but I can't imagine them finishing fifth for the foreseeable future. And so for me as well, this does have a special point in it. But yeah, it was at a period where they were on the up. It's like an arc. Which is obviously the pinnacle being the Copa del Rey win a few years later in different circumstances when, Hecho was in the team, etc. And I think I might be thinking this correctly. Spanair was still around as well as a business as well, weren't they? So, no, different times, and it's whilst the club was on the up.
No, perfect. That's quite a compelling argument there, mate. We're gonna have to clip these as well for these arguments to see who was spoiled. But like you say, it's one of those where you look back on, as I said about the Gola one for Blackpool before. When I was a teenager or when I was younger and I was looking to buy that shirt, I would have went, no, I'm not buying. I'm not walking around with Gola on. Who do you think I am? Now I would have it. And you look at that and you think, oh, well, maybe some of the it's not the best looking shirt. But you think if someone was to ring you up tomorrow, Paul, and say, look, I've got this 1997, 98 Mallorca shirt. I've got it going for 80 quid. Do you fancy it? You'd be tempted, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we would definitely have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Me and your wife.
No, she would not be allowed to know about it, and I'd be like having to sneak into the house. You're not part of a shirt, have you? No.
I get that. Yeah, I've got it now where I've got a deal with the chap who runs the corner shop on my street, and that's where I get all my vintage parcels sent to. And every time I go in there to pick one up, he goes, "Is it another football shirt?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Which one is it?" And I tell him, and then he goes, "I won't tell Bex. Don't worry about it." So we've got a reciprocal agreement now, which is quite good. But yeah, no, I like that. I like that Mallorca one. And I'm actually going to go for a shirt of the same season, though they weren't in the same division at this point. So the shirt I'm going to go for is Granada Club de Football, 1997 to 98 home shirt. This is again marking a time when Granada, we look at Granada now and the seasons that they've had. They've obviously had a good season in Segunda. This season they were relegated at La Liga, unfortunately, last year. But previous to that, they were pushing on the door of European football and things like that. They've got a really nice stadium, a pretty good backer. They've got a really good squad. Back at this point, they are very much competing in the El Pozo. They're down the well at this point. Mm-hmm. So they're returning to the third tier in this season. They're in Segunda Division B, as it was called back then. Group 4 as well. So again, we had this regional split as it came across. and essentially, there wasn't loads to celebrate this season for Granada fans. It was just a season of consolidation, getting themselves back into that league. They were challenging at the top, and they did reach the playoffs, but fell at the final hurdle, unfortunately. But the thing about this kit is, when you look at it, it has got those really traditional, like, Granada red and white stripes, which are very representative of the city. If you do go to Granada, it's something that does stand out for them. As we've mentioned, collars in the 90s were always good, and this was a beautiful red collar that just stood up out against the white shoulder plates. And we've not mentioned much about the paw prints on the Kelme shirt. You talked about them on the Orca shirt just then, but they are everywhere when you see them, and it is iconic, and that's the word I'm going to use for it. And again, they just trickle down the sleeves. But the great thing I like about this shirt is similar to the one I've got behind me, actually, is when they start to center things. So that's got Kelme as the center sponsorship with the badge to the side. This has got the Granada badge in the middle. And there's not too many Kelme shirts that I've seen that have the badge in the middle, apart from the Real Madrid kit as well. So again, Real Madrid and Granada in very good company here being this. And then the other thing I really like about this, and this is just because I'm a massive fan of Alhambra Verde, they've got this giant Alhambra logo across the front of it. And, this is obviously a time when you could have whatever you want, really, on the front of your sponsorship of your shirt. No one really cared anymore. They weren't rules around, sponsoring with, alcohol or fast food or whatever it might be. So they've got this massive Alhambra logo, which again is so synonymous with Granada that I think if you were to ask a Granada fan, this would be the shirt that they would say represents the city. And I think if they could get a shirt like this back, they would kill with this shirt. They would have so many people wanting to buy it because it is so stunning and beautiful.
Yeah, it screams Granada at you, even without knowing, or even if you covered up the Granada logo. And there is a very large Alhambra logo. Now that you mention it, it's literally all I can see. But probably if you think about the front, if you think about the front of a shirt, it's a good 15 to 18% of the front of the shirt is that logo. And not far behind it is the enormous Granada crest as well in the middle. But that looks very stylish. It's kind of a design. Obviously the stripes, the horizontal stripes doesn't really get old, does it? It's still, it's a evergreen design for Granada, but there's something about this particular shirt that and I think the Kelme paw prints might be what's doing it for it. That I think, even if they just released a shirt the same design now, not as a retro one, but as in like next season's, would still sell out. It's a very classy shirt, that.
Yeah, it's with the stitching as well. So again, on some of the Kelme shirts that you can get, is that they have kind of like not just a paw print, within the fabric. It's sometimes it's actually hemmed on. So I can't quite tell without this because unfortunately I've never touched this shirt. But I am endeavoured to try and find it and buy it. But if this is actual stitching that's going down the shoulder line and into the arm as well, then that's an absolute chef's kiss moment for me. But I just think it's really, really beautiful. And now you keep saying it, I think the sponsor is getting bigger the longer I look at it.
It's optical illusion.
But to be fair, just to bring myself back down to earth a little bit, it'll never be as big as the Cordoba Santander sponsor. I don't know if you remember that kit from, it must be about 10 years ago now. And it's obviously the green and white stripes of Cordoba, and then just this massive red square. So not even like blended in, massive red square with just Santander written in tiny font as well. So it doesn't even occupy the whole space. Just says Santander in the middle, and it like takes up from the bottom of your neck to the tip of your waist, and it's just so ridiculously big.
I like that because we talked about Napoli earlier. That season, where 2011-12, where they were in the Champions League, I think it was their first time for a long time in the Champions League when they had Cavani, Lavezzi, Hamšík, and Inla in the team.
Yeah.
And it's obviously they've got that nice sky blue thing, but then they had, I can't even remember the name of the sponsor, but they had that massive red box that was like up here, and they were a sponsor few years. Was it Lette or something like that?
Yeah, it was like a coffee brand, wasn't it? If I
That's
remember
it.
rightly.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely huge and like just a massive contrast to the rest of the. Yeah.
No, it's very, very strange. That I think that could probably be an episode in itself. To be fair, over giant sponsors of football, and we'd have some mad ones. To be fair, because
Yeah.
I know a few people don't particularly like a giant sponsor either because it makes a shirt look too busy.
Yeah.
For this one, I'm willing to let it slip because it is Alhambra, and I am a massive fan of Alhambra. So yes, I suppose I best ask you for your third shirt, Paul. Which one are you going to go with?
So I'm going to go with another one from the 90s. This one is from 97, 98 as well.
That's three from 97, 98.
Good year for Kelme.
To be alive.
Good year, yeah. Good year for Kelme. And then I'm going to be cheeky. And I'm also going to show. I'm also going to draw people's attention to a commemorative shirt that celebrates that promotion that season that was won for a one-off game. But for the purpose of this, going head to head for the designs, the main shirt that was the home shirt that year is the one that we're going to talk about. But I just want to say, and don't forget about this beauty as well. So, it is a Recreativo Nuelva home kit from 98, the traditional blue with the vertical stripes. What I like about this is it's got the big collar that we've talked about. Nice white collar with a tiny blue trim, but it's also got the string. You used to have it so you could tie the collar. And I'm trying to think to myself now, the only other shirt that I can think of at the top of my head that has the same sort of collar, Blackburn, when they won the league, was it Asics?
Yeah. Asics
had the string there, didn't it? Yeah. Was it McEwen's that they were sponsored by?
McEwen's Lager, yeah.
Asics
Lager, Alan Shearer.
And I know that there was a time when there was lots of shirts that had the string tie-up collar, but I cannot for the life of me think of any other example right now. So yes, nice blue shirt, blue sleeves with the Kelme paw prints up the sides, and then it's similar to the Espanyol shirt behind me, where it's two thick white stripes and then a big central blue panel, but it's got a big red sponsor Cepsa across the front, and then a really nice stitched Welver crest as well. And I just think it's supposed to look at it compared to some of the other ones that we've had. It's one of the more plain designs, but it's a sort of simple classic. This was from the season, actually, I should say, that Welver, they're in Segunda, finished 12th under Joaquin Caparrós, who has recently returned to Sevilla, hasn't he, to do an interim job for maybe third or fourth time, I think. So yeah, that's my third pick. But I did say I want to draw people's attention to the commemorative special shirt from that season, which similar to the home shirt is in the stripes. It's 3 stripes, but there's no sponsor on it, and it doesn't have the white collar. Instead, it's got a black collar, and it's got a huge stamped Welver crest in a light shade of blue that goes across the stripes. And yeah, I just think that's cool as well. But it's important to mention that, like I say, they finished in Segunda the season before. I should say they finished second and got promoted to Segunda. Finished ahead of Malaga, Cadiz, Granada, Cordoba, Almeria, Real Murcia, and Yaclano as well. So they wore this shirt to commemorate the promotion to Segunda, I should say, at the start of the 98 season, of which the shirt that I'm putting forward as my third pick was 4. So that's that. Yeah. Bit of a contrast in colours. I've gone with a red one, a blue one, and a purple one, haven't I? So
you certainly get. I think you're getting around Spain as well, which is quite
yeah.
From that perspective, isn't it? Like you say, we've had 3 Andalusian options now, so I don't know if we're playing with preferences here, but I like this as well. I don't know if this is intentional, but again, when you think of the style of the strings and such like that, it kind of harks you back to a a former time, an older time. I think the unescapable fact to me, and I will mention this to the cows come home, is I'm a big fan of Recreativo de Huelva because of the story of them being, the grandfather of Spanish football. This is where it started. So, I kind of feel like maybe this is Kelme paying a bit of homage to that, and saying, right, no one else this season is having a stringed collar because they're not the granddads of Spanish football. They can have whatever else they want to have, but 1997, 98 is absolutely smashing it for Kelme kits, to be fair. We need to go back to this era more often because it's absolutely stunning. So I think I'm going to go for my final one now because I think this episode could be about 4 hours long if we had our way go for the Kelme shirt that we've got. And I'm gonna end on another one. Now I've just scrolled to the picture. I can't get away from the fact that the sponsors are all giant. Like there is not one small sponsor on any of these shirts. And I'm going to go for the 1998-99 Real Valladolid shirt. So again, if you know Real Valladolid, you probably have heard of them this season, to be fair, because they've been absolutely shite down there at the bottom of the league. Embarrassing at times. But this was at a point where, they were not a powerhouse in La Liga, but they were a really good established La Liga side. The Jose Zorrilla was a great place to go visit. And they've got this wonderful Kelme kit to play in. Now, the home shirt is in the traditional white and purple of Real Valladolid, but the away shirt was this really bold black and purple shirt. And again, looking at the way it was designed, unlike what I'm wearing now, where sort of like the stripes go vertically and then come over your shoulder, this was like they were vertical. That all of a sudden they went, "Fuck it, we're going right," and it just turned into like a right angle and went down the sleeves instead. And it's just so bold and brilliant that it's so eye catching that I was just like, I've got to pick this kit. That paired with the hem on the cuff of the sleeves being, against the black and the dark purple, this white, boldness to it, and then the collar. So we've noted, obviously, they usually have the, the paw prints on the sleeves. This has got a white collar, which has just got little tiny purple paw prints going all the way around it, sort of like dashed with a little line, and it just looks absolutely brilliant. And I can't tell whether if I love or absolutely despise this logo, because it is Caja España, and it's got this, traditional red bull of that company on it. But it's this huge, clearly iron pressed logo on a white background, which you just think, if they just put a bit of thought into this and just done like a nice white logo or maybe even red without this giant white background, then it would be absolutely perfect for me. And I also do think Real Valladolid have one of the best badges in Spanish football. I think a few people would disagree with me on that, but I do really like the shield on top of like a wreath of a floral wreath, and then with swords sticking out of it. That swords are cool. So yeah, just everything for me apart from that logo, that sponsor, screams this is brilliant.
Yeah, I do like it, and I think when we talk about the Alhambra one, there's probably not much in it in terms of which has got the bigger sponsor logo. In fact, this is another one where the longer you stare at it, the larger the sponsor logo seems to go.
Yeah. I don't like that the mannequin's not wearing pants either. That's disconcerting for me.
You need to put the picture up on socials to go with this episode, just so people can appreciate the image that we're looking at.
Yeah, it's quite unnerving actually. I'm going to scroll down.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I say, this was just a really striking design. That helped to deviate away from those traditional whites and purple colours, and again create this dynamism that was modern. This was the 90s. If I look back at some pictures of me in the 90s, I'm wearing some pretty modern clothes for the time. But looking back at now, my daughter would probably rinse me for what I was wearing. Again, an absolute beauty for my fourth and final shirt.
Yeah, and so for my final one, where we've talked about some of the complexities of that one, the fourth and final shirt I've gone with is very simplistic in its design. And there's a few reasons I've gone for this. Primarily, it's because I think it's the simplicity is what is in the beauty of this shirt, really. But also, I quite like the fact that it's got a bit of symbolism as well for something else. So I've gone with the most modern shirt out of the entire bunch, which is a 2018-2019 home shirt for CF Reus. It's very simple. It's red and black, thick striped shirt with no sponsor on it, which is I always quite like, particularly after looking at those two shirts you've picked where the sponsor's enormous.
Sponsor to go around.
So this one's got no sponsor on it. It's got, like I say, the red and black for the stripes, and Kelme is written in white, pretty basic font, really. It's just the current Kelme logo where they've reduced the amount of paw prints. It's only got 2 paw prints on the shirt, so maybe we should deduct points for that. And they're on the shoulders.
Yeah. That's the decline for me of Kelme showing in its entirety. It's the change of logo. It's the lack of paw prints.
Yeah,
we're not in the same era anymore, are we?
No. What I like about this is around the back of the neck. It's basically done in the yellow and red stripe motif to symbolize the Catalan flag, the Senyera. I've said to the team, CF Reus. So this is actually the shirt from the club's final season, which they didn't get to complete. So if anybody knows any of the previous work I've done, I was one of the only English language writers to actually be able to cover the Reus story and its demise, the club's demise, I should say, and to get interviews with the club's owner. So for me, this is I think a really nice looking shirt for style and simplicity and color, but it's also got an important thing to it as well, because it's like, this club doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there's a Phoenix club, but it's not the same. And I just think it's a really cool shirt that if anybody's got one that they are looking to sell, I will gladly consider putting in an offer. But I don't think many of them were able were sold before the administrators came in, and so they will be very, very rare.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And obviously, it is a horrible situation that that club found themselves, and obviously a very proud club as well, a successful club on the back of that as well. And you mentioned the Phoenix club there. I'm supposed to give them a slight nod. I think it's Reus Club Football Redis. It was amalgamation of 2 clubs, wasn't it? They have just celebrated promotion out of Tercera this season and will be competing in Segunda Federation Football in the Catalonian and Balearic division next season. So, good to see the Phoenix rising, which is quite good. But yeah, like you say, this is a special kit in more ways than one, I would say. And it probably does symbolise maybe sometimes the dark side of Spanish football, because it. Obviously we've had instances in England and in the wider UK where clubs have disappeared. Talk about Bury and other clubs like that. But it's such a commonality in Spain that it kind of just happens now, and no one really blinks an eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. And we started this out. We've looked at Malaga, we've looked at Real Madrid, and we've talked about the golden age of Kelme in the 90s, and then. It's kind of gone full circle here. This is a club that disappears, and you're right. It's important we do acknowledge that the Phoenix Club have remarkably achieved promotion this season, and I'm really pleased for the local community there, because obviously it's the fans that have suffered the most there, and obviously the locals in the town, because there's a lot of youth players as well that were locals. So. On the up, so it's coming back round, and we can end on a positive note. But this episode's about the shirts in it, and I think this is a really cool shirt as well. So, like I say, if anybody's got one and they're looking to sell, let me know.
Yeah, this has actually just been one big canvas for these shirts. Get in touch. The email address will be at the bottom. Just don't tell our wives. That'd be
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, we'll just wrap up on that one then, because that's a great place to end. But I suppose one of the things I would like to point out is that, as we've noted, we had all these shirts. We've mentioned 3 from the same season here for Kelme. They are a rarity now to see any club sponsored by Kelme. I think the only one that still exists in Spain is Espanyol, if I remember rightly, at the moment. And then if you want to look a little bit closer to home, Watford is the club currently sponsored by Kelme as well in the UK. But I think they're the only 2 sort of like, I don't want to say top level European sides, because Watford play in the Championship for one, but they're the only 2 recognisable ones you would say, and the rest of them are sort of like micronations and futsal teams, and they do dabble a bit of rugby and swimming and things like that. So yeah, I just can't really see them reaching the heights again of sponsoring the likes of Real Madrid and Extremadura and Malaga and Rayo Vallecano, for example. I can't see it happening.
No, and I suppose it's quite timely as well, because it's only a couple of weeks ago that Le Coq Sportif went out of business as well, and they did some great football kits across various nations over the years. They also did some terrible ones. Let's not hide from that fact. Whereas I think Kelme, all the ones that we've looked through, interrupts this as we're making our picks, have all been class, really, and it's been quite hard to narrow it down to these 8 or so that we've picked for this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of my pride and joys that there is 2001 Aberdeen shirt, Le Coq Sportif, that my dad gave me as well. So that's got very treasured specials for there. But yeah, they also did have some absolute humdingers too. But yeah, we'll fondly remember Le Coq Sportif alongside Kelme as well. But Kelme haven't gone anywhere just yet. They're still going, as is Kelme Club de Football as well, still competing down there in the Alicante region. So, yeah, I will wrap up there. I'll firstly give a plug to a couple of things. We obviously a podcast which is timeless, so you can go back and listen to many of our upper episodes that we have out there. We've done one on Rafa Benitez Valencia. We've done our favourite Argentine 11s. Last week we did Sleeping Giants, the first of that series, where you can go and learn more about Super Depor and the rise and fall of the team from Galicia, which was really fun to do, and had some really good comments on the back of it as well. Obviously, there's El Pozo as well, which is myself and Liam Banbridge, where we look at the Spanish 3rd tier, and even below a little bit, we're discussing Segunda Federación now. We're really getting ahead of ourselves. So if you want to learn more about the leagues that are outside of the 2 La Liga setups, you can go and listen to those weekly. Comes out every Wednesday. And also, Paul, I don't know what you think about this, but someone sent me, a friend of the podcast, Chris Pigeon, he sent me recordings from the Unión Esportivo Olot against Terrassa game. And it's just a quick 10-minute clip where he's talking about what he's seen. But then I thought, well, this would be great to put out into the ether as well. So we've started something called El Partido en Directo, which it basically means El Partido Live, where we want fans who are at any Spanish football game during the week just send us a 10-minute recording of what you're seeing throughout the game. Send it in. If it is really, really good and it's one of the great games of that weekend, we'll certainly pick it and we'll put it onto our platforms. But again, I think that brings some of the football people scene to wider audience, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I've listened to Chris's episode, and it's absolutely fantastic. And he's a likable guy as well, and he's very easy to listen to. But it does make for good listening, regardless of what team you support as well. As if you just like football, it's a really good new avenue that definitely we would love to have more of going out there, because it's a new way of experiencing the game and sharing memories, basically. So well done to Chris for setting the bar very, very high with that first one that's gone out there.
Yeah, 5-2 game as well. It's quite awesome, isn't it? So but the good news is there is a certain boy who is lost, was where I describe it, who has taken himself off to Jaén this evening for some I think it's 5th tier Spanish football, but one of the league's top end competitors. and he has also sent us in a recording. So keep your eyes peeled for that one over the next couple of days. And as I've said, if you've got one, send it in. But yeah, I'll say thank you very much, Paul, for your company this evening. It's been wonderful to talk to you about these fantastic Kelme kits, and I'm excited to see what our followers on social media pick, because I think we've got some good battles in there, haven't we?
Yeah, and likewise, it's been enjoyable as always, and it's always good to look through these nostalgia glasses with you. And kits are always great to talk about, aren't they?
They are. We're definitely buying at least 3 after this podcast. So yeah, best of luck to you in that, Paul. I'm going to go and hide in the bathroom and get on Vinted and see what I can find. And thank you everyone for listening at home. It's been fantastic once again. We'll be back again next week, but for now, hasta luego.